Hello and welcome back to Bible Wits Bible Corner. Today we're going to be continuing in Acts chapter 20. I'm going to be reading verses 9 through 16, starting with the English Standard Version. And a young man named Eutychus, sitting at the window, sank into a deep sleep as Paul talked still longer. And being overcome by sleep, he fell down from the third story and was taken up dead. But Paul went down and bent over him, and taking him in his arms, said, "Do not be alarmed, for his life is in him." And when Paul had gone up and had broken bread and eaten, he conversed with them a long while until daybreak, and so departed. And they took the youth away alive, and were not a little comforted. But going ahead to the ship, we set sail for Assos, intending to take Paul aboard there. For so he had arranged, intending himself to go by land. And when he met us at Assos, we took him on board and went to Mitylene. And sailing from there, we came the following day opposite Chios. The next day we touched at Samos, and the day after that we went to Miletus. For Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus, so that he might not have to spend time in Asia, for he was hastening to be at Jerusalem, if possible, on the day of Pentecost. New Century Version. A young man named Eutychus was sitting in the window as Paul continued talking. Eutychus was falling into a deep sleep, and finally he went sound asleep and fell to the ground from the third floor. When they picked him up, he was dead. Paul went down to Eutychus, knelt down and put his arms around him, and he said, "Don't worry, he is alive now." Then Paul went upstairs again, broke bread, and ate. He spoke to them a long time until it was early morning, and then he left. They took the young man home alive and were greatly comforted. We went on ahead of Paul and sailed for the city of Assos, where he wanted to join us on the ship. Paul planned it this way because he wanted to go to Assos by land. When he met us there, we took him aboard and went to Mitylene. We sailed from Mitylene, and the next day we came to a place near Chios. And the following day we sailed to Samos, and the next day we reached Miletus. Paul had already decided not to stop at Ephesus because he did not want to stay too long in Asia. He was hurrying to be in Jerusalem on the day of Pentecost, if that were possible. Okay, so again, butchering some names. I apologize. Here we have a very interesting narrative of a young man who is trying to listen to Paul, but it is late. It is already, according to the passages we read, past midnight, and Paul is still speaking, talking about the message of Christ. And this young man falls asleep. And what happens when you fall asleep? Your muscles relax. So he fell. I don't know how tall the buildings were back then, but typically 3 stories is roughly 30 feet-ish, give or take. Those of you that know architecture better than me can put exact numbers in the comments if you want. But still, pretty long fall, hard fall. Paul brings this young man back to life. So that right there would have been pretty hard for everyone to witness the young man dying, but then not only seeing him die, but being brought back to life within minutes of each other. That also had to have been something interesting for them to see, something amazing, miraculous, because in fact it was a miracle. The one thing that I find interesting about this story, though, a lot of people try to focus on this young man being raised from the dead. What did Paul do? As soon as he raised this young man from the dead, he went back upstairs as if nothing happened, broke bread, and continued to talk about the message of Christ. So in other words, he wasn't trying to garner attention. He wasn't trying to have the focus shift away from Christ. He was wanting the focus to be strictly on Christ. And that's why he did it as if nothing happened. So, and then we see that he's traveling. He's trying to get somewhere in a hurry. So I know I've said in the past videos, we should not worry about time. We should not worry about this and that, because we see examples in the Bible of people listening for hours and hours and hours about what God wants from us. But now we also see an example of, hey, yes, I am okay with talking for hours here, but I am in a hurry. I do need to get to this location as quick as possible. So, yes, it is important to not focus on how long or short lessons are. Long lessons can be a very good thing. But it is also important to understand time crunches to get somewhere as fast as possible. So, as long as God is at the center of all of it, that is what the important thing is. I hope you find encouragement in this, and I hope you have a wonderful, God-centered day. Bye.